Okay, the webinar is live. Attendees are pouring in, which is great. Welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time today to join us after our Thanksgiving holiday. Hopefully everybody had a safe and happy Thanksgiving holiday. My name is Olaya Landa-Villard. I'm the director of the APH Connect Center, and I'm going to be kicking off this webinar today. Our webinar is monitoring your blood sugar and using insulin when you're visually impaired. The webinar initially was scheduled to last an hour, but we also will have 30 minutes to answer questions. So if you can hang on after the hour is up, for an extra 30 minutes. If you can fit that in your schedule, there will be time for question and answers. Also, this webinar is being recorded and it will be available on our YouTube playlist. And I am going to put that in our chat. There we go. I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to put the link where you can find the recording of this webinar. It's in the chat box now. If you want to look at a list of any of our other upcoming webinars, you can visit our website at aphconnectcenter.org/webinars. And I'm also putting that in the chat for you. Okay, and the handouts that are going to be mentioned in this webinar will also be available at this bit.ly link that I'm going to include right now also in the chat. Okay, oh, looks like our, I was just about to say our closed captioner will be here in just a second, and she just, I don't know, she just joined us, and I just added her as the captioner. So hopefully she's gotten that and she'll be able to start captioning for us. Thank you so much, Diana. She just chatted. Yep, closed caption is available. So if you need your closed captioning, please make sure that you click on that and you'll be good to go. Okay. Also, since I'm talking about the chat, if you have anything that you would like to ask throughout the webinar or make comments about, you are more than welcome to drop your questions or comments in the chat. We'll be addressing them with the presenters at the end of the presentation. The one thing we do ask is that you make sure that you change your to all panelists and attendees so that everybody can see your questions and comments. Also, if you want to get an idea of any other upcoming community events, please be sure to check out our Connect calendar. And I'm putting that in the chat box as well. We have lots of things going on in the APH Connect Center, if you haven't noticed. And then I think I did, yes, I did put the link to the handout that are going to be talked about during this webinar. Okay. So now it seems like most people are in. Let's do a quick poll and let's see who we have with us today. There are 3 questions. So we want to know, where are you from? Are you from the Northeast US, Southeast US, Northwest, Southwest, Midwest, US territory, Canada, Australia, European country, or other? So you can indicate that. The next question we have is, how did you hear about this webinar? Did you hear about it from the APH Connect Center website, university, faculty, ACVREP website, friend or colleague, social media, or other? And we want to know, are you an adult who is diabetic, a family member, friend, or caregiver of someone who is diabetic, or a professional who works with people who are diabetic? And we have about a third of us have participated. We're just wait for a few more. Okay, we have just over 55% of us. Give us maybe another 10 seconds. Okay. All right, I'm going to end the polling. Let's share the results. Let's see. A big chunk of us are from the Northeast US. Then we also have The next big chunk, Southeast, Northwest, Southwest, or Midwest. You're almost tied with Northeast, Midwest, which is where I'm at. I'm in Illinois. No one from U.S. territories. We do have some visitors from Canada. Thank you so much and welcome. Glad to have you. Let's see. No European countries or other. Let's see. Oh, an email from APH seems to be like the biggest way you've heard about us. I'm glad to hear about that. Make sure you visit our APH Connect Center website as well. We have lots of good information there, and also kind of a heads up on further or future activities and webinars that we will be putting out there for you. Let's see. And we have 84% of us are professionals who work with people who are diabetic. So thank you for attending. I think this is going to be a really good webinar for you. We have some adults who are diabetic and some family members. So all of this is going to be very helpful for you. I really thank you for coming. I'm going to stop sharing the results. That way we can move forward. For those who are putting questions in the chat about handouts, and I will repost the links for you, okay? Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our presenters. Go ahead, Pris.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pris Rogers, and I work with APH and VisionAware, and I'm delighted today that we have two wonderful speakers. We have Audrey Demmitt, who is a VisionAware peer advisor and has been for several years. She also is an RN and a health educator with many years of experience with teaching people who have diabetes. And she's written several blog posts for us on diabetes, and you can find those on the VisionAware site. We also have Kim Ladd, who is also an RN, and she is a certified professional in healthcare quality, and also a certified diabetes educator. And she works for the Virginia Department for the Blind and Visually Impaired as a diabetes educator. And she's been doing several webinars and has also just written a blog post for VisionAware that we don't have up yet, but we will. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the program over to these two presenters.
Well, hello, I am Audrey, and I'm going to kick us off here. Let's see, one second here. I'm looking for my, wait just a second, I'm so sorry. Looking for my notes. Hey, Kev, yeah. You're not coming up. Sorry. Anyway, my name is Audrey, and like Chris said, I am a nurse, and I have taught and written and done education on diabetes for quite a long time. And I am visually impaired myself, although I am not diabetic. And my passion really began in this area because of the lack of information that there is out there for people with diabetes and vision loss. And over, I was encountering consumers and clients that I was working with where there just was not adequate information about how to adapt their skills. And so that kind of began my journey. And so I want to just begin. I've called my portion of this talk just setting up for success. And I think it's really important to lay the groundwork with some basic things to put into place so that consumers can be successful with these types of self-monitoring tasks. And so first steps to take, I like to make sure that people know that it's really, really important to ask for diabetic education. It's not always available in every region of the United States. You may not have access to a fully certified diabetic educator, but ask for whatever is available in your area. So if you're a diabetic, you have to speak up for yourself and really request this education. Any classes, any information that you can get your hands on is really the place to begin. You have to become an expert yourself on this disease. And then the second important thing is to request services from vision rehabilitation specialists in your area. And this might mean, well, of course, this would apply if you're visually impaired. Now, there are some impairments that are caused by diabetes fluctuations just in blood sugars. When your blood sugar is high, of course, you may have blurry days. But we're talking more about diabetic retinopathy and the impairments that will really affect how well you can read a glucose monitor or whether you can find your blood drop on your finger. Those kinds of impairments, if your daily skills are being affected, then it is time for vision rehabilitation services. And the APHVisionAware.org website does have a directory of services, so you can put in your state and find those services wherever they're closest to you regionally. But every state does have these services. So for sure, it's important to reach out and initiate that type of help for yourself. What you're going to find is that a diabetic educator may not know much about your vision loss, and your vision loss professionals may not know very much about your diabetes. And so they're going to depend on you, who stands between the two of those professionals, to sort of fill the gap and help them understand both about your vision and then about your diabetes. So that's an important role. And in order for you to do that, you have to become an expert at it yourself. So I want to motivate you towards that. It's really, really important. And then the other important thing is to make sure your healthcare team, whether that's the endocrinologist, your primary care doctor, the nurse in your doctor's office, the podiatrist that you see for your feet, or the cardiologist, or whoever you are seeing on a regular basis because of your diabetes, you have to help them understand how your vision impairment impacts your ability to care for yourself. So whatever tasks you're having difficulty doing because of your vision impairment, your doctors need to know and understand it so that they can help you develop workarounds and problem solve, and also to get the devices that you may need with your insurance accepting, you know, the need for that device. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. So another, you know, I want to call this sort of a checkup on your understanding and your knowledge. And it's really important to do this yearly even. It's recommended, in fact, that you refresh your knowledge on your diabetes self-care. You can take refresher courses at local hospitals or wherever they're offered in your area. And insurance usually does pay for it. So there's no reason not to. Just do yourself the favor and stay fresh and up to date. So probably at this point, if you've been diabetic for a while, and I know I'm talking to some professionals out there as well. So let's talk about why we monitor to begin with. Why is it so important? So why do we test our blood sugars? Well, one reason is you use that information to make daily adjustments in not only your food intake, but your activity and the medicines that you might take. So for instance, your insulin dose will change depending on what your blood sugar levels are. So you have to have kind of an ongoing knowledge about where your blood sugar is at. Another reason is to make sure that you're not having dangerous highs or low levels of blood sugars. Because those are problematic and dangerous. So you have to know in order to act upon them. And then the third important reason to be monitoring is so that you can understand how your diet and exercise, stress or illness, all of these things change your blood sugar levels. And so you want to understand and anticipate how your levels are going to change based on these things. And, you know, what kind of foods raise your blood sugar up very quickly, or how much exercise is too much exercise, and how is stress affecting your blood sugars or illness? So ask yourself these questions. Am I testing as often as I need to? Am I getting accurate results? Otherwise, what's the point, right? If we're not getting accurate results. And then what do my results tell me? And so again, this requires some basic understanding to know, what do these results mean to me and what am I going to do about them? So I want to just talk reality for a moment. And I've heard from lots of people reasons why they don't want to test, why we don't want to monitor, or why people don't monitor as often as they should. So here's what the reasons that I've heard, and Kim could add to these, I'm sure. The first one is, well, it hurts to poke my fingers. My fingers get sore and they get calloused, and I don't want to do it. Number two is, it's difficult to get a good drop of blood. I have trouble finding the drop. I waste a lot of strips trying to get that accurate reading, and my insurance will only pay for so many strips. The test strips are expensive. Well, these are all very real reasons that would discourage anyone from testing. It's understandable. You're not alone. We hear these reasons a lot, but we still need to be testing. And if we can refine our skills and get better at it, you could get to the point where you could test less frequently. You might waste fewer strips and save some money there. But the most important reason for getting good at testing your blood sugar is getting accurate results that, that really give you the information that you need. So let's talk about what can affect the accuracy of your results. Well, the first thing is the quality of your meter. Is it being properly maintained? Do you understand what the error messages mean, and do you take the proper action? Are you using your control solution to confirm that the meter is reading accurately? I think some people get a little lax on doing their control solution checks, but it is pretty important. So when should you be using the control solution? You should use it when you open up a new package of strips. You should do spot checks just randomly. You might do them when you are getting weird readings that don't make sense, or if the meter has been dropped. You want to just be checking, is this meter working the way it should? Now, it's beyond the scope of what we're talking about today to talk about how to do that control solution check. But basically, the control solution is like a drop of blood, and you simply put a drop of it on your test strip and then let the meter read it, and it should read what the bottle says it should read. So if your control solution says you should get a reading between 46 and 52 or whatever, then that's how you can check accuracy on your meter reading. Another way to do that is to take your meter to your doctor's appointment. When the doctor does a check in the office, either with another meter or a lab test that they're going to send to the lab, you can check that against what your meter reads at that same time. So you coordinate that reading to see if they're within range of each other. Okay, another thing that can affect your results is your technique. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to refresh and make sure that we're good on our technique. But you want to always begin with clean hands and a clean meter. If you have orange juice on your fingers and then you pick up your meter and you get that sticky, sugary orange juice on your meter and everything's gunky, this could affect your reading. So keeping your meter clean, your hands clean. Do you understand what the error messages mean? You really have to get to know your meter. And one of the things that we hear often is, well, the manual to my meter is not accessible. I can't read that little print package insert that it came with. Well, there are some meters that have manuals online now in PDF form or other Word document forms that can be read with screen readers and Zoom you know, features and accessible features on your computer. So you could go online and read the manual that way. Another thing that can affect the results is the condition of your test strips. Are they expired? Have they been exposed to extreme temperatures? Have they always been stored in a closed vial, keeping them dry and from light? So if your test strips are altered in any way, they could give you funky readings. And then there are some substances that you can take in your body internally that can affect your blood sugar readings. One is vitamin C, another one is Tylenol. Those are two very common things that are used over the counter, but you really should check with your meter manufacturer to see what types of substances can affect the reading on that meter. So it's information you can find in the manual of the meter. And then again, another thing is altitude, weather, temperature, humidity. All of these things can cause unpredictable results from your test strips. So again, check your meter manual and the strips packaging and learn what you can there. And if you have to, go online to look for those manuals that might come to you in a more accessible format. So it's also important not only to learn about your disease, you really have to learn about your equipment. You can get information about your meter and test strips from the toll-free numbers also that are given in the manual. And some of the best meters available have really good customer service. And so these toll-free numbers are going to be very helpful to you. And I'd even suggest putting those on speed dial in your cell phone or whatever, because you know, they'll take those calls and they can help walk you through many of these types of problems and questions that you might have. I've also found that some of these meters have videos and audio versions of their manuals online. So look for those options. You don't have to just rely on that little tiny piece of paper that comes, the booklet that comes in the package with the small print. And I would even put this information, if you're low vision, you could put it in a Sharpie with Sharpie large print on a index card, the toll-free numbers in large print, and keep it with your diabetes supplies. Because if you have problems with your monitor, suddenly it's going to be while you're testing with all your supplies. And just call them if your meter is malfunctioning or you do not understand something that's happening. Don't hesitate to call. Okay, so this next section now is the nitty gritty. We're going to talk about our technique, and Kim's going to pipe in on part of this section too, but let's just start with the simple beginning steps. And the first one is to gather your supplies that you use to test your blood sugars. And you might be keeping all of this in a shoebox or a small basket, a cookie sheet, a cake pan, whatever it takes to get all your supplies in an organized way. And then you go to a place where the light is good, there's good contrast in the background, maybe a white piece of paper or a white placemat for when you're trying to find that blood drop on your finger. This is for low vision people. If you're totally blind, then whatever you're going to use, your special devices, your adaptive equipment, all of that get together. Magnifiers, lamps, special lighting that you want to use to do this procedure. And then prepare your lancing device. And as you all may or may not know, I'm not sure, I won't assume that, you can adjust the depth of that lancing device, and you can choose needle sizes also. There's many meters now that that don't require such a large blood drop. So you don't have to be, you know, shredding your fingertips to get this blood drop anymore. It used to be, it took a pretty big hole and a pretty big blood drop to get a good test. That is not true anymore. So try to go for the smallest needle size And of course, the shallowest depth you can get away with in order to get the size drop that you need that your meter can read. And by the way, all meters read different size drops. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. So you're preparing that lancing device just perfect for the right drop of blood. And then you load the strip into the meter. And this is a step that some people will have trouble with because of vision. So you can mark that place on the meter at the very top where you slide the strip in with a bump dot or a piece of sticky Velcro, or even a permanent marker with a Sharpie, a big black dot or something that just guides your eye to slip that strip in at that place. And now after you've prepared all this, this is the point at which I would wash hands. And you want to wash your hands in warm soapy water. That brings the blood to the fingers. It's going to make you more successful in getting that blood drop. It brings it up to the surface of the skin, and of course it washes away any kind of debris that can alter your blood sugar reading. Now, it used to be that we used to wash our site where you're going to prick your finger with alcohol, and now they're saying no need to do this step. So no more of the little alcohol pads and the cotton balls and all that. So if you're in a clinic and they're testing your blood sugar, they are still going to use alcohol because there's other germs in that environment. But in your own home environment, no need to use alcohol, both for your finger prick and for the site where you're going to give yourself insulin. And the studies have shown that there's such a almost nil incidence of infection that this is why they're eliminating the alcohol step, because it actually dries out your fingertips more, and it's just an unnecessary step. Okay, now another question here is, are you rotating your fingers daily? If you have a system for doing this, great. If you don't, we can talk about it. If you'd like me to go into that a little more, we can. But you should be rotating using a different finger every day. So you're going to pick your finger and your prick site. If you're testing 2 or 3 times a day and you're going to stay on that one finger, you want to use different parts of the finger for those different pricks for that day. And my best suggestion for this is to use your fingernail as your landmark. So if you're thinking about, let's think about our pointer finger for a moment and just look down at your fingernail. And the bottom of your fingernail can be one prick site off to the side of it. And then to the right upper corner can be another site. Then you could do the left side of your fingernail, left upper and left lower. That would give you 4 prick sites on one finger. And I suggest also using the very narrow sort of alley to the sides of your finger and the side around the tip, not the pads of your fingers, but the very narrow alley. I call it an alley. And what that does is it confines where you're going to be finding that drop. And if you use your strip to find the drop after you bring up the blood, you can usually scoop it up easily and get it on the strip without missing. So it's important then picking the right places to do these blood tests. And I don't know how Kim feels about this, but I'm not a big fan of the alternate site blood testing. Like some people will do their arms or their, other parts of their body. That's kind of like finding a needle in a haystack if you're visually impaired and you have to find that drop. And I think there's also been quite a few studies that have shown that those alternate sites don't always give a good, accurate result. So I would just stick with fingers and rotate them and, use the appropriate lancing device so that you're not shredding your fingers. Okay, so the next thing is, so you've washed your hands. They're nice and warm now. The blood is up. You can hang your hand to your side and shake it like you're shaking down a thermometer. This will also bring blood to your fingertips. And then you can rub the finger that you've chosen to prick to warm it up as well. If, you know, when the weather's cold, my hands are really cold right now. These things will help. But we don't recommend a lot of squeezing because what that does is actually brings up other fluids, and it sort of can dilute your blood sample because interstitial cell fluids get mixed in there when you're really squeezing and pumping it. And that can change the blood sugar result. So try to avoid squeezing, do more of the milking and rubbing. And then you prick that finger, and then you can hang it down again to the count of 5. And by this time, you know, if you don't feel that you're getting a drop, you can do some milking gently from the base to the knuckle upward. And then slowly, like I say, if you're doing around the finger, around the edges of the finger, and by the way, that does have more of a blood supply and less of a nerve supply. So that's also a good reason to use that area because it's less painful. But then you move the strip slowly along. Let's say you prick the right bottom corner of to the side of your nail bed. I hope that makes sense. So you look at your nail bed, go to the bottom right, and then go off a little bit onto your skin. And you meet your strip there, right below there, and then at a 45-degree angle, scoop slowly away from you. And that drop, more than not, will get onto that strip and you will get a reading. Okay, Kim, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about your technique.
Okay, hi everyone. So I am Kim Ladd. Like I was introduced, I work at the Virginia Department for the Blind and Vision Impaired, and I work in the home setting and in a training center setting, helping people mostly with diabetes, but any other chronic condition, care for their disease processes. So one part of it is helping people test their blood sugar. So I kind of developed a technique that I've had a lot of people have great success with, even those with absolutely no vision. I call it the thumb guide method, and it is one of the handouts that's available to you all, but I will just briefly explain it, hoping that it'll make a little bit more sense when you read it. So basically what you do is everything that Audrey said, you have all your supplies together and organized. What you do is you go ahead and prime your lancing pen, and you go ahead and put your strip in your machine. And then you want your hand that you're going to prick on a hard surface like a table. I'm going to put my hand up in the air just for those that can see to demonstrate, but just pretend my hand is on a table. So you are going to like take your thumb of the hand you're going to prick and place it on one of your fingers. So I have my thumb pressed down on my ring finger of my left hand, and I'm applying pressure. That helps keep the blood pooled at your fingertips so you get a good blood sample. Then what you're going to do is once you place that thumb, you do not move it through the whole thing. So you're basically doing this one-handed. That's why you want to have all of your supplies ready before you start. So you're going to pick up your lancing pen and you're going to basically slide it down your thumbnail onto the pad of the finger that you're pricking. And then you're going to go ahead and prick your finger. The purpose of this is it gives you a small surface area to guess at where the blood is. You can usually feel it too. As long as you don't have bad neuropathy, you can feel the pressure that your thumbnail is applying to the finger pad that you stuck. So you know you stuck yourself above right where that pressure line is. So after you stick your finger, you pick up your meter that has a strip in it, and then you hold it like a dart, like you're going to throw a dart. And you take that strip and you also put it on the thumbnail and you slide it down until it makes contact with the finger pad that you stuck. Hold it there for like 3 seconds because it takes about 3 seconds for the strip to suck up the blood into the machine. If You don't hear it beep, because I'm going to talk about talking meters. That's how you know when you get the blood on there. You pick the strip up a little bit, move it over, and push it back down again. This one, you don't want to smear, because if you smear the blood, you're not going to get enough blood. It'll suck the blood up, but you won't get enough to do a test. And then you're going to have to do it all over again. So kind of just pick it up a little bit, move it over, and place it back down. The thing that I like about this is, you know, I've had people that they go through 12, 14 strips every time they try to test their blood sugar because they cannot find the blood, or they smear it and they don't get enough. I have found that people that I have taught this technique to, some of them have cut down, you know, 4 or 5 strips that they use until they practice. I mean, literally, that is kind of the name of the game. You just have to practice, practice, practice. And the more you practice, the easier it will become. And I've had people with absolutely no vision get down to only using 1 strip every time. You know, those are the people that have been committed to practicing this technique. So that's just kind of an overview of it. Like I said, I have a step-by-step process in one of the handouts. So Audrey, did you want to go into talking about talking meters next? Did you want to start that off?
Yeah. And so I hope that those 2 pictures, you have those pictures in your mind. It's sort of also a process of creating a mental map too, of where you pricked yourself, where you just sort of visualize it in your brain, and you will have more luck finding that drop. It also helps to lay your finger again. If you have low vision, you can lay your finger against a background, a white background, and somehow that just makes that dark blood drop pop a little more on your finger. And then of course, having good lighting and all of that will help. And then, yeah, Kim, so the next step, or the next section, is talking meters.
Okay. So this is also another handout for you. It's just kind of an overview of how to get a talking meter for testing your blood sugar. Because I have found, you know, in nursing school, they don't really teach you anything about blindness. You learn all about diabetes, and you don't really have any schooling on how to adapt things for blindness. So, you know, I've been teaching about diabetes for 20 plus years, but I didn't really get into the visual aspect of it until I started working for the Department for the Blind. I myself personally, I have diabetes, so I have been living with it for 13 years. I do have vision though. So I come from it from a side of, I understand it's a 24/7, and, you know, how burdensome it can be dealing with diabetes and all of the aspects about it. And then I'm learning, you know, the vision part through problem solving and trial and error, because like I said, there's really no manual. There are suggestions and things like that. But so the kind of things that I'm sharing with you are things that I've kind of learned through the School of Hard Knocks, I tend to call it. So one of the handouts is how to get a talking meter. Many healthcare professionals don't even know that talking meters exist. So if you go and you get diagnosed with diabetes, they usually just say, you need to go get a meter and you need to test your blood sugar 2 times a day. And then you're just like, what? I mean, A, I can't see it, and B, I don't know how to do it. So they'll usually give you education on testing your blood sugar, but then they might not even know, the diabetes educator might not even know that there's talking meters. So the sheet that I made up, I have people just give it to their doctor and have them read it just so they know how to order it. It explains how to order a talking meter, what supplies you need, that insurance will cover the meter if the doctor writes a prescription for it. I've had a lot of people tell me, well, my doctor wrote the order and my insurance denied it. Well, they really can't do that. Sometimes I feel like the insurance company's first job is to deny. Then what you have to do is you need to fight it. So you need to advocate for your needs. Do not get it filled if it's not a talking meter. You have to ask your doctor to get involved and talk to your insurance company in order to get a talking meter. They do not cost any more than regular meters. Actually, a lot of them are a lot cheaper. I have some on that list. I have 3 particular ones that I talk about and how to get them. The problem is, you know, insurance companies contract with durable medical equipment companies to provide certain equipment, meaning like if I have Anthem, they might contract with AccuCheck. So the only meter I can get is an AccuCheck meter. Well, guess what? AccuCheck doesn't make a talking meter. So they're going to deny it because it's not on their formulary. And that's when you need to get the doctor involved to override it. It can be done. They cannot deny you because of a disability. So I'm just letting you know that. Just advocate for yourself. So if you give the doctor the piece of paper that I have, it lists 3 meters that he can choose from. If your doctor writes the prescription for a specific name of a meter, it makes the process easier. So I'm not going to go over that since you have that in writing, but I have some demos of the ones that I have on that page. So what makes a meter a talking meter? Basically, the main function you want is it tells you audibly what your blood sugar reading is. There's one that I call the Cadillac of meters. It is the Prodigy Voice, because it basically is the only meter on the market right now that you absolutely need no vision to set it up, or test your blood sugar. Most of the other meters will tell you what your blood sugar reading is, but you need visual assistance to set it up when you put the batteries in it. So I don't have the settings on this one done because I want you to hear how it works. So this is the Prodigy Voice. There's basically there's 5 buttons on the front, 2 on the side help you scroll. And then there's a round button that is the power button and the memory button. And then the button next to it is setting. And then there's another arrow button. You don't even need to worry about the arrow buttons. So I'm going to press the settings button.
Your Prodigy meter is on. You are now in setting mode.
So
Volume level.
So this one tells me, so as I go through and set everything, it's going to tell me what I'm doing.
The year 2015.
Well, we know that's not right, so I'm going to change it.
2016, 2017, 2018.
I'm going to quickly go to 20.
2019.
But that just gives you the idea that as I go through and set it, I don't need someone with vision to come in here and push buttons for me,
The month January.
because I can listen to it and change it myself. That's why the Prodigy Voice, which is on that list, I call the Cadillac. Then we have some of the ones that don't do as many, don't have as many options on it. But this is the Prodigy Auto Code, which is also a good one. Prodigy Auto Code, I swear I don't work for Walmart, but I tout them because they tend to have buying power and they tend to have more products than most other pharmacies do. Plus they're everywhere. So you cannot get the Prodigy Voice through Walmart, but you can get the Prodigy Auto Code. They do not stock it, but they can get it through their supplier, which is McKesson. So you would have to ask the pharmacist to order it for you. If you do not have insurance, the Prodigy Auto Code only costs about $18. So that's actually less than most people's copays. And the strips are $7 to $9 for 50. So that's also very inexpensive. It used to be meters were $100 and strips are $40, $50, $60 a month. So this is a much better option. This one, you need assistance to set it up, but you don't need assistance to check what your blood sugar level is. Basically, you don't even have to turn it on. You locate where the strip goes in, which it actually is concave. So it's really easy to find even without putting a bump dot on it or anything. And you put the strip in.
Your Prodigy meter is on. Please wait. Please apply blood into the test strip.
So it actually tells you what to do. If you put the strip in and it doesn't talk, you know you put the strip in incorrectly. So you just turn it around, put it in. If that's not work, you flip it over and put it in. You just keep trying until you get it to turn on. And then you apply the blood. I'm going to use control solution because I don't think I want y'all to know what my blood sugar is because I did not eat a good lunch today. So I'm going to put control solution on here and pretend it's blood. If I can get it out of here.
That blood sample is not enough.
Look, I didn't put enough control solution. So it even tells you that.
Blood sample is not enough.
So let me try this again. I gotta do better than this. I'm supposed to be telling y'all.
You wasted a strip.
Please
All right.
wait.
It's because I told it I didn't want it to know what my blood sugar is.
Testing.
Okay, there it goes.
Blood glucose, 109 milligrams per deciliter.
All right, we'll just pretend that's my blood sugar. That's a good blood sugar.
That's a
So
good.
as you can tell, the meter tells you the step you need to be on and what your result is. That's why I love these things. The last one I wanted to show you real quickly is one, because the Prodigy is kind of a specialty product. Sometimes it's hard to get. Walmart, again, they have their own brand of products called Rely On. They have one called the Rely On Premier Voice, and they actually stock it on the floor in the pharmacy. So you could just walk into the pharmacy, take it off the shelf and go buy it. Again, if you do not have a prescription from your doctor, you will have to pay out of pocket. It costs $14.99 or $97, something like that. And the strips cost $9 for 50 strips. But if you have a doctor's order, your doctor can either call it into the pharmacy, or you can have a good old piece of paper, take this up to the pharmacy, and they will bill it to your insurance. So this one, the same way, you just put the strip in and it will start talking to you. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing, as I already see we are going through this hour really quickly.
Blood glucose test. Please apply blood onto the test strip.
So that one works kind of the same way. I did see there was a question for hearing impaired. All of these meters have a handset jack that you can put a handset into to make it louder. The volume itself is not super loud, but I have had some people that have hearing impairments plug in to the jack and they're able to hear the reading on their blood glucose machines. So I will stop with that because I see that we're already going through our time, Audrey, because we like to talk. So
well, let me just add a couple of things. So all meters are not made equal. And so there's a few features that you do want to consider if you have the choice. It often comes down to what your insurance is going to pay for. But like Kim has pointed out, they're so inexpensive now. You could actually have a second meter that you bought on your own out of pocket, so that you could test more frequently because you can afford those strips. But the things to look for are the accuracy rating of your meter, the one you're considering, the blood drop size of sample that you need to get a good reading. And then if you're low vision, you want to look for a large clear screen that you can read if you're going to be reading those numbers, maybe a backlit screen or lots of contrast on that screen so that you can read it. And then the fully audible, when we say that, like Kim was saying, sometimes you need, it's not fully audible in terms of the settings or the manual. So the Prodigy, you know, Kim calls it the Cadillac. It really is sort of the standard, gold standard for talking meters. And it's worth it to get it, I believe. One, because everything is fully audible. And two, they have really great customer service. And they have a great website where you also have access to instructions. And then the other thing to consider when you're looking at buying a meter is how expensive are their strips. So be careful there, because they can really get you. The meter might be cheap, but the strips are expensive. So, and just another little note to consider, the Rely On from Walmart actually was in the Consumer Reports guide from last year. It was listed in the top 10 talking meters. So it's a great value. All right. If you're looking to buy a talking meter, there's a couple of good places to look for reviews. One is the American Diabetes Association website, which is just diabetes.org. They have consumer guides every year. They'll put out a consumer guide on glucometers. They will also put them out on insulin adaptive devices. So anything, they're called consumer guides from that website. And then the magazine Diabetes Forecast has a lot of really good information on talking glucometers. They also have an article on 4 ways to save on test strips. So there are ways that you can save on purchasing test strips. So there's no reason not to be testing your blood sugar enough. And I want you just to stop for a moment and think that the cost of test strips is minimal compared to a hospitalization or a diabetes complication that you may develop because you're not getting good glucose control and testing your blood sugar enough. So let's just put that in perspective and keep testing your blood sugar. Another really good place for information on glucometers is the FDA.gov medical device website. So if you go to FDA.gov and look up medical devices, you can look to see what they say about blood glucose monitoring devices. There's good information. Okay, so now we're going to move into measuring and giving insulin. And Kim, take it away.
Oh, wait a minute. I was going to talk about CGMs for a second.
Okay, sure.
So I'm just going to do a brief talk because one of the handouts also is on continuous glucose meters, which are the way of checking your blood sugar without pricking your finger. They're also known as CGMs. So there's two basic ones that are on the market now, and I'm sure you've probably seen commercials on TV for them. One is the Freestyle Libre and one is Dexcom 6. They both work about the same way. I have a demo of the Freestyle Libre, although it's not going to work because I don't have the sensor attached to my arm anymore. But I'm just going to kind of show you what it's all about. Basically, you get a meter. The meter, unfortunately, is not accessible in any way because it is a touch screen and it does not talk to you. So if you do not have a way of using adaptive devices to see the screen, don't even get the meter if you want this. There is an app that you can download on your phone. Not every phone works with it, so you got to check your phone and make sure you can download the app before you spend the time to get this device. And on an iPhone, you have to have an iPhone 7 or above. And with VoiceOver, it'll read your blood sugar reading to you. If you have an Android phone, you have to have, within like the last 3 years, it has to have that newer operating system, like Ice Cream Cone or whatever it's called now. And you can turn TalkBack on and that will work to read your meter, to read your readings to you. So basically how the Libre works and the Dexcom, with both of them, you have to apply a sensor to your body. With the Libre, you have to apply it to the back of your arm. That's the only way it works. With the Dexcom 6, you can apply it to anywhere you kind of have a fatty tissue. So basically most people put it on their abdomen or, 2 inches away from their belly button or the back of their arm. The Libre sensor, let me get this one out because this is one that I used, that it's basically the size of the circumference of a $50, and it's about as thick as 3/4 stacked on itself. It comes with what I call a trigger mechanism. The sensor comes in what I call a yogurt cup. It comes in this thing that looks like a yogurt cup, and you peel the back off. Now there is a process to inserting both of these things, and I have taught many people with no vision how to do it. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 lessons, but then they get it and they're good to go. So basically the trigger mechanism comes off and you have to get the sensor into the trigger mechanism. And then once it's primed, you place it on your arm and you punch it. I just say punch it, and it attaches the sensor to your arm. It stays in place for 14 days. The Dexcom stays in place for 10 days. It has a different trigger mechanism, but they both work, like I said, the same way. The problem with the Dexcom is you have to enter a code when you put the sensor in. So you have to be able to see the number on the sensor to enter it into the system. So the Dexcom is not the most accessible one. The Libre is more accessible than any one of them. And then all you do is, once it's applied, it takes an hour to calibrate. Once it's done calibrating, it'll beep. And then you just either turn your meter on or bring up the app on your phone and you run it over the sensor and it'll beep, and then it'll tell you what your blood sugar reading is. So both of them work that way. The Dexcom 6 continuously takes your blood sugar and it will give you a reading every 5 minutes. The Libre is continually taking your blood sugar, but it does not show you what the blood sugar is unless you scan it. Now, there's always a caveat, of course. Insurance covers these, but you have to meet qualifications. So I have diabetes. You would think I'd be able to get it, but I could not. My insurance would not pay for it. Basically, you have to have diabetes. You have to have an order for insulin at least 3 times a day and an order for checking your blood sugar at least 4 times a day. So I did not meet that criteria. So I paid out of pocket for mine. It cost me $200 for the meter, which I didn't know about the app when I bought the meter. I wish I hadn't even bought it. And it costs $75 a month to get the sensors. You need 2 sensors a month. So if it's that important to you, and you don't want to stick your fingers and you feel like you can pay the $75, that's great, but always try to get it through your insurance. So your doctor has to order it. It has to come from a durable medical equipment company. On the handout, I give you all of the information on it. There's videos you can listen to or watch. And it also tells you the qualifications. I will say during COVID, they have put a moratorium on the qualifications for it. So if you think it's something you want, try to get it now, because I guarantee if you get it, they're probably not going to take it away from you once COVID is over. So that's just kind of my way of working. Sometimes you got to work what you can through the system to get what you need. So try to get it now if you think. And that's basically just an overview of it. In Q&A time, if you have more questions about it, I'll be happy to answer them for you. But I love this because I don't like sticking my fingers either. It's so easy. And it made me check my blood sugar more because it was just so easy. So I was able to keep a better track of what I was eating, you know, what I should eat and shouldn't eat, and how much exercise and all of that good stuff. All right. So what were we going into next, Audrey?
Well, injection aids, and just in the notes and the file that we'll be sharing with you, there's going to be 3 different catalogs where you can order adaptive diabetes equipment. And Kim's going to highlight just a few pieces of them.
Okay, so here we go. I feel like I'm on, I'm Vanna White and I'm doing show and tell. So basically, if you take insulin, you want to ask your doctor for insulin pens. So they usually come in a box of like 5. And the reason I like them is because they're super easy. Basically, it's a big fat pin. You pull the cap off like you normally would. There's a disposable needle that you would peel the back off and then just screw on to the end. So that's all you have to do to attach the needle. It comes in, it has a dial on it, and I hope you can hear it. It clicks. So what you do is when you want to dial up your dose, if you're supposed to take 10 units, you dial 10 times to hear 10 clicks. So basically I tell people just hold it up to their ear and click it and count it. You know, make sure you're not doing anything else when you're counting, because if you screw up, you're going to have to start all over again. So you count the clicks, then you just, you know, pick your injection site, and then there's a big button on the end that once you hold the needle down against your skin, you just press that button, and that's how the insulin gets injected in you. So if you can get insulin pens, that is the best choice. They're the easiest ones to use. However, insurance prices have gone through the roof. They're starting to come back down now, but I mean, it was like $600 a month some people were paying, and they were not getting their insulin because they couldn't afford it. Insulin pens cost a lot more than vials of insulin. So a lot of insurance companies were denying the pens and said you had to get a vial. So what are you going to do if you can't see and you have to draw up insulin? Well, there's 2 kind of devices. I really need to invent something new because these have been around forever. One is called the Safe Shot. So this is a plastic piece that has notches in it, and the syringe fits into it only one way. So the syringe fits into notches on this piece. The thing is, if this is only good if you have a fixed dose of insulin. So if, say you take 20 units of Lantus every day, someone with vision would need to set this. Basically what it is there's a little plastic screwdriver. I have it taped to my thing so I don't lose it. There's a little plastic screwdriver that you put at the bottom of this screw that's on this device, and it turns this stop gap to the dose that you want it to be at. So if your dose changes, you're going to have to get that changed by someone with vision. But basically how this works is you put the needle in the device. You need to hold it upside down because you're going to put the insulin bottle at the top and puncture the bottle with the needle. So you need like 12 hands sometimes. You hold the vial, and then you basically pull back until you reach the stop gap. So this I have set for 20 units. So you can either hold it there for a few seconds and it'll fill up with insulin, or you can push it back into the vial and then pull it back, and that makes sure you get all the air out of it. Now, I mean, this takes some dexterity. It's not the easiest thing to use, but I did have an 87-year-old man who recently lost his vision. His wife had to stop going to church because he needed insulin during church time, and he wanted her to go to church. So I went to his house and I taught him how to use the Safe Shot, and now his wife can go to church. So I say, if he can learn it, anybody can learn it. It just takes practice. All right, the other one is a count-a-dose, and this works kind of like the insulin pen for if you have a sliding scale dose, like your dosage is based on how many carbs you eat or what your blood sugar level is, and it changes all the time. This is another plastic device The needle fits into it only one way. There's little notches in it. It's much easier if you can actually put your hands on it. So I'm sorry I'm not giving a wonderful description of it. Again, you hold this one upside down. You take the cap off. The insulin bottle fits into another piece, and it can only go in there one way, so you can't do that wrong. And then it slides up top. And then again, you're holding it perfectly upside down. There's a dial on it. There's a embossed plus and an embossed minus. So the plus means 1 unit into the syringe. The minus means 1 unit out of the syringe. So if you have a 10 unit dose, you're going to click 10 times. So you have to get used to clicking it. So this takes practice as well, but it works the same way as the pen clicking. 1 click is 1 unit. You have to use a 0.5 cc syringe with this one. If you use a different size syringe, you're going to give yourself the wrong dose. So that's one of the things. And then you just take it out of the contraption and give yourself the shot. This thing's been around so long, I actually have a cassette tape with instructions. So it comes with a CD now, but the one that I have has a cassette tape. This has been around since like the 90s, I think, or the late 80s. So those are two kind of devices that help if you have to use vials of insulin.
So Kim, on the counted dose was recently acquired by Prodigy Company. And on their website, they now have a video of how to use the counted dose. So you can learn it by looking at that video over and over or listening to the audio. There's an audio only version. So these are accessible ways to learn these devices now, which didn't used to exist. So that's really something helpful that Prodigy has been all about. All right. Well, so those devices are available in the catalogs that you'll see in the handouts. I think that covers the most important things that we set out to discuss. Should we go to questions?
Sure. I did want to mention one other thing though, because I briefly mentioned, the price of insulin. So another handout that is available is an insulin saving guide. Basically, in the US at least, there was, I believe it was an executive order, but the government has been working with pharmaceutical companies to bring down the price of insulin. So basically, starting in January, no one is supposed to pay more than $35 a month for insulin out of pocket. Hopefully it comes to be, but I have attached a guide that lists every pharmaceutical company and the type of insulin that they sell in their patient assistance program. So like Eli Lilly has a program. Some of them have qualifications that you have to meet either through income poverty levels or different types of insurance plans that you're on, but all of them at least have some kind of savings program so that you don't go without your insulin. And then there's also a list of things like GoodRx, different companies that have come up with cost saving programs for medications. So I tell a lot of people about that, especially if you have Medicare and you get in the donut hole, which most people are in right now because they've gone through the $4,200 or whatever that makes them go into the donut hole. If you're in the donut hole, just I wouldn't even tell them to bill it through Medicare. You could bill it through GoodRx or one of those discount programs, and that will save you a whole lot of money. So that list is also one of the handouts. So thank you for letting me mention that for a second.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so should we open it up to questions, or are there any questions on the chat?
Yep, there are. One of the questions that I see here is, what if you continue to have a problem inserting the strips even after you mark the area of insertion? Any suggestions?
This is Kim, and I would say, unfortunately, it just takes practice. Sometimes I have people, I will do a visit, and the only thing we do that whole visit for 15 minutes is practice putting that strip in the machine. It's also it's like muscle memory. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. So I wish I had a magic wand that made it happen, but it really just is good old practice, unless Audrey has some magic trick that I don't know about.
No, I think, having a tactile marker, having a mental map of where that slot is, and then maybe putting your meter flat on a table. And if you're right-handed, Let me see, where's my, I don't know where my, I can't
You're
see.
right. You're right. Your hand, looks like, there you go. Both your hands are,
Okay, so moving the
bring them,
strip,
there you go.
yes, moving the strip to the meter on a flat.
Move your arms over just a little bit to the right, Audrey. You're right.
Okay, well, basically.
There.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, if this is your meter and you're moving the strip, and like Kim says, just keep moving it over and over till you find, you can even put one finger at the top of the indentation on the meter or the slit, and then practice. And it's like Kim says, muscle memory, over and over until you get it, and you'll find it.
I have also gotten like puffy tape and literally applied puffy tape around the outside circumference of the hole. And then I just tell people, you know, find the puffy paint, and then you know that the strip goes in the middle of the puffy paint. Just, it's trial and error sometimes. Just keep trying things until you find something that works for you.
With the puffy paint, would that be somebody who is sighted to do that? Because I'd be afraid that some of that puffy paint would get into the slot. Okay. Yeah.
Probably, yes.
Well,
right.
I was going to say, this is something that a vision rehab therapist or a teacher could actually be helping you with. They will help you adapt things around your home. So they could do the puff paint for you, or go through these exercises like Kim does with her clients, of learning this.
Yeah, you're that's right. They will help you with that. That's part of it. But I like the puffy paint idea, maybe even hot glue. You just have to make sure that you're careful with that.
Yes.
Or a wiki stick, because those things stick to everything.
Yes.
and they're bendable. Yeah, those types of things. But I like the puffy paint idea for sure. And then there was a question about, can you demo that? And I think you already did do some demonstration.
I did do some, yes.
Okay, please discuss scope of practice. And I'm not sure, this is from Bill Hickson.
Well, you know, that most often comes up with the concern that VRTs, vision rehab therapists have, where they feel like they might be crossing the border into teaching as a diabetic educator. So remember, you want to encourage your consumers, your clients, to be their own best expert on their disease, right? And on their care plan and on what their doctors have asked them to do. So a VRT just helps them accomplish whatever that is. So a VRT is not going to make decisions about when they should test or how much they should test. You're only going to help them adapt the technique, maybe, right? Kim, would you say that's
definitely? And
the difference?
You're not actually pricking their finger,
right?
Because, you know, nurses don't do that either without clinical orders, because it's an invasive procedure. It's considered, of course, every state is a little bit different. But if I'm going to prick somebody's finger, I have to get their permission first. And I would do it as a nurse because I'm trained in how to do it. But VRTs necessarily wouldn't do that. You would just have the client do the pricking.
Do it for themselves,
yes.
right? And
yes.
for a number of reasons. One is also biohazard, you know,
yes.
exposing yourself to biohazard. You don't need to do that. You just say to the client, show me what, you know, how you do it now. Let's look at what problem you're having, and then let's just problem solve together. Yeah, so.
No, that I agree. That's a really good question, Bill. I mean, we, as a teacher of the visually impaired, sometimes we have to make sure we don't cross the line between a teacher and a therapist. So those are two, we face those things too, but you're right. You're not going to be the one doing the poking or giving the orders per se, but you're going to be helping your client, access the materials or the information, or like Kim was saying, Audrey was saying, with how to insert the strip into the meter, by making that meter either some kind of tactual marker on there, those whatever works for the client. That's what you'd be doing, right? You wouldn't necessarily be the one taking their blood or helping them poke, that kind of stuff. No.
And even the techniques that VRTs use, hand over hand and all that kind of thing, when it comes to monitoring and using needles and having blood involved, your hands don't really need to be in there.
Mm-mm.
Just stay back, you know, don't get contaminated with those things or get an accidental poke or a stick or something on you. So it's really just ways, and you guys are, you know, the VRTs that I've known are so creative in coming up with ways to do things. That's really where your expertise is going to be the most helpful.
Good question. Let's see, are there any meters that are good for vision and hearing impaired? And I think you went through that already, that they're really, I mean, obviously you have the talking meters, the ones for the hearing impaired, you mentioned plugging into the actual meter itself with like headphone, like the headphone jack.
Yes.
Right. That they can amplify.
Yeah, to amplify. That's the thing about that, or hearing aids, like they don't clarify, they amplify. So they have to really, you know, listen. I'm one of those people. I have hearing aids, but I don't wear them because they just make me not understand you louder. That's really all they. that's really all they do for me. So I just, you know, forget that. But yeah, I mean, those are some of the kind of the tricks of the trade there, using the headphone, the jack. How can you access? We already, the handouts, we put the links there. Hold on, I'm scrolling down. Where did you say you could get the auto code for Walmart?
Yes, I mean, there are CVS, I believe, can order it. There are some certain pharmacies that can, but I've had the most success at Walmart. They have to order it. They do not stock it. And there's also on the handout, there's a mail order company, US Med, that they will help you get the Prodigy auto code. Now, I'm not touting mail order companies, you know, they're good and bad to mail order companies. This is my disclaimer, because a lot of times they'll give you like a free meter. And I think Audrey mentioned this too, you know, that's fine if the meter's cheap, but it's the strips that are the expensive part.
Right.
A lot of times what they'll do is they'll give you a free meter, you know, yay.
Yeah, but
then you get the bill for the strip at $60 a month. So I don't always buy into that, but that one that I have on the handout, US Med, I have personally used them for people. So I've had experience with them, and they have the Prodigy auto code, and they will take care of calling your doctor and billing your insurance, and they will mail it to your house.
Wonderful. Okay. So. Pris mentioned it in, I get in the chat as well, you have to ask the pharmacist to order from the supplier.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Because I don't know of anybody that stocks the Prodigy meter in their pharmacy, because it's not a real common meter that people ask for.
Okay.
So
some people, some of the pharmacists in Walmart may not even know this. You might be telling them something that they didn't know.
Yes.
So you have to say, can you please check your supplier and see if this is available? I want the Prodigy auto code.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on, you know, how much experience the pharmacist has as well with individuals asking for something like that. You know, it being low incidence, you may run across one or two who haven't. So yeah, that's a good point.
Yes.
You know, making sure, because Kim, it looks like you responded. Walmart, you can get the auto code and the Rely on Premier Voice. Okay. How much is the Prodigy Voice and how much are the strips? You already address that, Kim?
Yes.
Or Audrey? Okay.
Yeah.
Did we though, Kim?
I did in the chat. Sorry, when you were so the Prodigy Voice, depending on where you get it from, is about $80 to $120, and then the strips are $10, about $10 for 50 strips, and that's without going through your insurance.
And then again, about the insurance, with the doctor, if your insurance declines a talking meter for you, what you have to ask your doctor to do is to do a second form called a medical necessity form. And it's for blindness or low vision or visual impairment. And they file that with the insurance, and then the insurance should accept it. The doctor has to do the medical necessity.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so it's all about just being advocating for yourself and being persistent. A lot of times, yes, that's just the way it is. Yep. Okay. Let's see. You already talked about the pumps. Did you talk? I know you talked about the sensors. What about the pumps?
Didn't talk about the pumps a whole lot. Currently, there are no pumps on the market that are accessible. They're mostly all touch screen. Although I've had clients that use a pump that have no vision and have been successful at using it. And the way they do it is they have memorized the buttons and the settings. So they know if I push this button, it's going to give me 2 units of insulin after I eat. If I push this button, it's going to stop my infusion. And they have learned to insert the insulin into their machine. The thing is, when you get a pump, there's a whole process you have to go through. You kind of have to prove that you can do it before the insurance company will pay for you to have a pump. So don't let that scare you. If you want a pump, just have that conversation with your doctor, and they can start the process. And they also have educators on the line that can walk you through anything.
They even have educators, Kim, that will come to the house, right?
Yes, they do. They do.
Yeah. And
you know, they kind of go, oh, you're blind and you want to use a pump. I've had that happen. But like I've had lots of people that have been able to do it. It's kind of that you have to prove yourself, though. That's the whole thing. I mean, you have to prove yourself anyway, but when you're blind and want to pump, you really have to prove yourself. You got to know how to count carbs. So you have to be proficient in counting carbs, because that's how you do your bolus dose with the insulin pump. And you have to be able to be proficient in inserting the insulin into the pump, changing your tubing every 3 days. So there's lots involved with the pump that's difficult even when you have vision. So I'm not saying that to deter you, like I said, but if you want to do it, you really have to commit yourself to it.
Did you say counting cards like playing cards?
Oh, carbs, carbohydrates.
Oh, I was like, what? But you remember, that's my hearing impairment going on right there. I didn't see I have to look at your mouth, and I was like, did I just see B or D back there?
Don't blame my speech impediment.
No, you're good. That's me. That's why I always have to ask. But okay, gotcha.
So,
okay.
So the insulin pumps, they have reviewed them on Access World, on the old American Foundation for the Blind website. There are some reviews, but those are new pumps, and I think they're a couple generations away from those pumps. They have gotten easier, but like Kim says, it's a large learning curve, and you have to be highly motivated. And I think you have to qualify too, don't you, Kim, in the same way?
Yes. Yeah, you can be type 1 or type 2, but you have to have a need for at least 4 times a day insulin. So basically, you know, if you take insulin before meals and at night and in the morning, then you pretty much could qualify for a pump. You know, the pump is really just kind of an artificial pancreas. It gives you a small amount of insulin 24 hours a day, and then you give yourself extra insulin when you eat. So that's kind of how it works. I mean, I think the pump is awesome. It's a great tool. You know, I did have the MiniMed G6 is one of them that's easier to use. I did have a client, actually just last month, I got called to the hospital because none of the diabetes educators knew what to do with him because he was blind and he had a pump. So I had to go to the hospital and out with that. But so he had memorized the buttons, but also what we did is I downloaded Be My Eyes on his phone. You know, some people are uncomfortable.
Good idea.
Yeah, it's a free app, but you know, you don't want people all up in your business, but they're not really going to get any personal information looking at your insulin pump screen. So what he did, because he used to call his grandma and have his grandma video call him to tell him what was on his pump. And that wasn't working too well. So we did the Be My Eyes app, downloaded that on his phone. So when he needed to adjust his insulin when he ate, he would call Be My Eyes, have them look at the screen and tell him read the things to him, and he would push the button. I mean, there might be some liability in that. It's probably not the best thing, but it was just kind of a backup for him. And the other thing is, a lot of the MiniMed has an active mode that you can set in it that you don't even need to give yourself, change your bolus or your basal rate, because it's like a computer and it does the thinking for you, and it automatically calculates your dose and gives it to you. So they're coming a long way with pumps that will make them more accessible. We're just not quite there yet.
Gosh, I wish they would, if they were talking pumps, that would be amazing.
I'm going to get on my little stool here because it upsets me so much that everything does not talk, because, you know, diabetes is the #1 cause of blindness in adults.
Yes. Yeah.
So to me, everything should talk and be tactily functional, because a lot of people have neuropathy as well, and they can't feel those little buttons. But I'm sure it all comes down to money, you know, research money and funding money. So
money and advocacy and advocacy, you know, making making noise,
Yes.
making noise, writing your Congress people, doing all those things. Yeah, that
Yes.
a lot
So
of it is
never-
advocacy. Yeah.
Never be ashamed to advocate for yourself. That is what you need to do. Nothing's going to change unless you advocate.
Yep, absolutely. Let's see. Will most health insurance companies approve a person who's visually impaired to get the Libre? I think you spoke about
Yeah,
that.
I do have, because I have one thing, you have to meet the criteria, which is the need for insulin and the constant monitoring of your blood sugar level. But I had one client out of all my clients. She is the best advocator I think I've ever met of any patient I've ever had. She got her insurance company, which was a Virginia Medicaid plan, which is impossible to get overridden, get the Libre for her due to her visual awareness, because she does not take insulin, and they covered it. It took her 6 months. She did a letter writing campaign and got her doctor involved, and they paid for it.
Wow.
I'm just saying, anything's possible. You just have to commit to it.
Yeah, you have to commit and dedicate your time
Yes.
to all of that. Yeah,
Yes.
it's not easy. Let's see. How accurate is this as compared to and he didn't finish the fin.
Oh, maybe the scanning, the Libre, and how accurate is that to finger sticks?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe
I think maybe that's it. The FDA has qualifications for everything, so they all have to pass FDA clearance. So they are accurate. The thing with the Libre and the Dexcom sensors, they're testing interstitial fluid, not capillary blood. So there is a slight delay. So the one thing that they say is if you scan and you get like a low reading, test your blood sugar the old fashioned way just to verify that that's how low it really is. So that's the only thing. But other than that, you do not need to do finger sticks to calibrate these sensors or anything anymore. That you did when they first came out, but now you don't need to.
Oh, well, that's good news.
Yep.
I think this was in reference to the click, the pen that you had that does the clicks. What about if you have a hearing impairment? Is there a way to tell the clicks? Can you feel it clicking as you're doing it?
Yes.
So maybe tactily is the way to, feel it, I guess. Is it? Okay.
There's like a little bit of pressure when you click it. There's a little pressure when the click is done. So you can.
Yeah, and vibration too. You can.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some vibration, and it could be done tactily as well.
Okay. I think maybe the issue might be too, if you have neuropathy in your fingertip, maybe that might, I don't know how else you would do it. Put it up against your thigh, maybe while you're clicking or twisting it so that you can feel it. If you can't feel it, I don't know. That's the way I think I would do it. My hands are like that. So I would have to do something like that.
It's still going to be preferable to syringe and vial if you have neuropathy, because it's hard to manipulate all that. So the pens are going to be good for that. And the click is a rough click. It's not a real smooth little. So
you would feel it even through the numbness? Okay.
I think so. I
think so. I mean, if you have severe neuropathy, that's kind of a whole other ball field we're playing in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, you can, but tactually and by the vibration, you should be able to tell even if you can't hear the clicking. Okay.
Because there are actually there are new pens coming that are they actually have a little computer in the insulin pen and they draw up the dose for you. Of course, that's just finished testing and getting approval. So it'll be 10 years before the insurance company?
Probably.
I don't know,
probably.
Things move slowly.
Yes, I know.
I see a question about the medical necessity form. That is not a form you need to come up with. The doctors know how to do that. It's done all the time for durable equipment and medications and things. It's a process the doctor knows already how to do it. You just need to ask him to do it on the basis of visual impairment would be the reason why you're requesting adaptive device. And so that's not a form you have to come up with.
You just have to know to ask for.
Just ask.
That's what you want. Okay. Or that's what you need your doctor to help you with, to do. Okay, cool. There was a,
They do it all the time, so they know.
They know. Okay, good. A doctor in Canada used to make a variable dose device called the syringe support. Do you know if that still exists?
Actually, I think it does.
That's What?
I don't know. That's something I would have to research. Now I'm curious.
I think I saw that when I reviewed some catalog items. I'm not sure where I saw it, but I think it might work like a Sure Shot, or like the first one that you demoed, Kim. What did you call it? What do you call it?
Oh, the Safe Shot.
Yeah,
Safe
Safe Shot. Yeah, it could have been a precursor to that. And what happens is some of the products compete, and the lesser quality one ends up going away and the better one stays on the market. They,
Well, yeah.
so they'll probably do something similar.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just did a real quick Google search while you're doing that. And it's like Sterid test syringe support. It's like $4,630. I don't think that's the one that you're talking about.
No,
I would hope not. Yeah, I don't, that's,
You can afford that. You can pay someone to do your insulin.
yeah, no, right? Yeah, so I don't know, but that's a good question. Something like you said, Audrey, you're looking at some different things. Maybe there is something, it may not be the one in Canada, but it's something along those lines that what you were mentioning.
yeah, I think even if it went off the market, whatever's still on the market is probably doing the similar thing. Kim, have you ever had any luck getting a, let's say, an insurance company to cover a counter dose?
No, they do not cover them.
Okay.
What is it?
So
What?
the Countadose, the two adaptive products that I demoed for drawing up insulin. Yeah, unfortunately, that's not something insurance will cover because they don't see it as medically necessary, which is beyond me.
Yeah.
But so kind of how we do it in Virginia is it's something you can get through your Department for the Blind. So each state is a little bit different, but sometimes the Department for the Blind will get them for you, or like Lions Club will donate money for you to get it, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, those are good tips, because that little counter dose puppy, you'll find it anywhere from $65 to $100
It's expensive.
for that little
Wow.
plastic. Yeah, and it is pretty essential if you're giving yourself insulin. You know, if you're just a few units off, it can affect things.
It really can.
Yeah.
Let's see, got a comment from Alan thanking you both. And while you guys were talking, he pulled out his old Prodigy and tested his reading for the first time in many years. He's still alive, thankfully.
Good job.
Thankfully, Alan is still here with us.
I hope we motivated him to test more.
Well, it sounds like it. That's great. Okay. Let's see. Looks like our captioner has a hard stop at 4:30.
Okay.
That and we have like 1 minute left. So
I think I saw something about the Omnipod system.
yeah, I was just getting to that. Good. Go ahead.
So, you know, that's kind of a pseudo insulin pump kind of system. It's a cartridge you put on your arm that delivers insulin to you over a couple days. There is an app for that, and that's the only way it would be accessible, because again, it has a reader that's a touch screen, and so the meter itself is not accessible. So you would have to download the app for that one. So I haven't had anyone get on the Omnipod with visual impairment, but just from my research, you can make it accessible by using the app. But that probably wouldn't be my first go-to.
Okay. Well, it looks like we are at our time now. What I'm going to do is I will copy and paste all of the chat text, put it in a web document, and then that can be something that we can send to everyone so that they have that. And, you know, Audrey and Kim, you guys might be able to, you know, send us answers, and we can always send it to the attendees as well.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, and we may need to do this again, but maybe with longer time. Obviously, I mean, we had over 80 people attend. So I mean, this is definitely needed. So thank you so much for your time, your expertise, your patience, answering questions, and sharing everything that you all have. We've gotten some really good comments in the feedback. I mean, in the chat. So we will be sending out a link to all the participants for a survey. So please be on the lookout for that, so that we can use that information to either repeat this webinar and make it a little longer. And then of course, we would like to expand what we offer in regards to diabetes education for individuals who are visually impaired or blind. So again, thank you for attending. Oh, go ahead, Audrey, I'm sorry.
Alaya, could there be a way that people could ask for topics that they'd like in the future?
Yes, absolutely. You can email us at connectcenter@aph.org. And so you can email us with your, suggestions or comments or anything like that. Absolutely. They sure can. Yep. Or even on our Facebook page for VisionAware, can always put in a comment there too.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And,
So that,
one thing we didn't give a little jingle for was the diabetes articles that are on VisionAware already. And there's actually a curriculum there that may need some updating that it will get soon. But it's a great place to start for some foundational information on diabetes and then diabetes with vision loss. So you can go to visionaware.org and look for the diabetes guides.
Mentioning that for sure. But I think other than that, I think we're good to go. Thank you again, everybody. Be on the lookout for the survey link. Please send us your request for or ideas for any other webinars. And just let us know how we did. We appreciate you all attending. Thank you so much, Audrey, Kim, Chris, Melanie, for getting all this set up. And we will hopefully see everybody again soon at our next webinar.
All right.
Okay,
Bye,
everybody,
take care.
please stay safe. Bye-bye.
Be monitoring.
Yeah, right.